Hi, I'm Sir Ravin. I'm a knight in the Northwest. I've been fighting for about 15 years, and I'm going to share with you some techniques that I've been using to stay sharp during our isolation period. So this is one of my most common practice tools. I set up some flails to use as target practice, and I'll put them at varying levels to simulate different target areas. And this is going to allow you to practice hitting moving targets and switching heights very quickly. And you do it just like so. Now, if you want to get your flails to swing less, you'll want to tie the pommels close to what you're anchoring them to. And I find that if you put a little bit of weight right here next to where the flail joint is, it's going to minimize the amount of swing so you don't get flails that move all over the place. Next up, I've got a ball on a rope here, and it's going to allow me to practice hitting the same target in rapid succession. So it's going to look like this. And what we've got going on here is a tennis ball with a hole through the middle of it that we put onto a rope. We've got a knot here to keep it suspended. And at the bottom, we've got a weight tied to it. And this is going to allow our tennis ball to return to its original position very quickly so we can practice our double tap. This weight at the bottom, you'll want it to be as close to the ground as possible, and 2 to 3 pounds is going to be sufficient. We're going to look at this springboard that I built, and this is going to give me really good feedback on what kind of power I'm transferring into our target. So as we can see, that's kind of what we're looking for. And so if we stab like this, that's not going to be sufficient power, and it becomes easy to see. So let's look at the construction of this one. So for this one, we've got a T shape of boards. This is connected at the bottom with a hinge there, and we've got some springs on the front. So when you hit it, it goes back forward. This rope keeps the board from flopping all the way forwards. Now, there was a design flaw. If you hit it too hard, it'll do that. So next time I build one of these, I'm going to fix that. But my fix for right now is I get a little stool, and now it returns upright every time. Now we're going to look at a technique used to practice our changing throughs. Changing through is when we make a half circle with a spear, and it allows us to be very deceptive. So here we've got a hanging tennis ball and a flail for our target. And all we do is we approach, we thrust to the right of our tennis ball, come underneath, and then finish our thrust on target. It's going to look like this. So what we've got going on here is just a standard shepherd's hook. We've got a tennis ball hanging there so that we can get underneath of it, and of course our normal flail as a target. In this exercise, we're going to look at how to get angle on our opponents. So there are many times when someone's right in front of us and they're going to be really hard to stab, and by adding some angle to our spear, we can gain a couple inches out of advantage and make it a little bit easier for us. So we've got this cable that's been hanging here, and it's going to be a really good visual tool to see us get that angle. So it's going to represent a straight plane, or maybe even the edge of the world. So we're going to attack our opponent in front of us, and the most common way is to go like this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we can get an advantage if we angle our thrust in, like so. And you can really easily see our spear crossing over this cable here, and that's what we're looking for. So when we do it, it's going to look like this. Now, a common mistake that we're going to want to avoid is we're going to have a thrust that looks like this. We're going to approach, we bump our hands out, and watch the spearhead here. It's going to go like this. And that's not going to accomplish anything that our straight thrust wasn't accomplishing. So we really want to make sure that we bump our hands out and we have our spearhead moving like so around their shield. Want to add complexity to this exercise, we can get something that's going to simulate a shield that blocks our opponent and interrupts our line of sight with our target. And so we make the same approach phase, and we reach around that line of sight obstruction and seek out what we're aiming for. We can also use this cable to practice our parries. So I've got it propped up with some shepherd's hooks, and this is going to represent an incoming attack from another spear. And you can see it's landing here at a realistic target area. And you can use this rope to sit there, you can study the angles, and work on your parries. And this is really useful because you can tell a good parry from a bad parry. You want this rope to move slightly off of your body. That means that you're clearing the space in front of you. One big mistake that we could make is we could misidentify a bad parry if we parry like this, where the rope crosses right in front of our hand. That's not going to actually stop anything. So we want to be parrying with this section of the spear. And that's what we're going to use to hit our rope with. We can do this on the other side of our body as well with our backhand parry. We've got our rope touching us, and we just parry until we feel that rope moving off of us. Next, we're going to look at this device that I built that's going to let us practice our tip control. And so when we do this, we're going to make circles with our tip. We want to make sure that we're using the pommel to control the head of our spear rather than our front hand. It's going to lead towards a more nimble spear tip. And then you just make these circles and see how quickly you can go. So let's look at how this one was built. To build this one, I just took an old shelf and I cut out 2 circles for the spearhead to fit in so that this can spin. This is attached to the back board with a bolt, and we've got a washer here. In between the 2 pieces of wood, we have 2 washers. And then I just tied it onto the fence using some rope, or you can use zip ties. So this next exercise we're looking at is going to give us feedback on our accuracy, our power control, and our range finding. And these are all very important things. So it's very simple. All we need is our spear and any wall, a tree, basically any flat surface. And we're going to approach our object, and we're going to stab at it as hard and as fast as we can, and we're going to stop as close as we can to the object without actually hitting it. So we want to be right about there is ideal. And what this is going to get us accustomed to is finding our range, and if our spear does anything that we don't want it to, we're used to pulling all the power out of it. So oftentimes our spearhead will do something crazy, head towards someone's face, and we can stop it before we actually hit them. And it's an extremely valuable tool. So let's look at this full speed. It's going to look like this. And when we're doing this, we want to make sure that we have enough room left to comfortably touch the target. Otherwise, you'll train yourself to stab 1 inch short of all your opponents, and that can be very frustrating. And we can do this with all of our thrusts. Here's the sliding thrust, just like so. Now, if we're stabbing from too far away, it's going to give us some really good feedback, because here I can no longer comfortably stretch and hit my wall, and now I know that I'm reaching too far. This exercise is to help us gain familiarity with our spear. It's going to let us change sides with it and know where we are in the spear as we're changing our grip up and down its length. And so it's very simple. We just take open hands and we pass the spear back and forth across our body. And you can do it different parts of the haft, and like so. This is one of the ways that you change sides with your spear. You've got it here, you bring the pommel up high, and like so. And make sure that you step with it so your leg and hand are in the correct orientation. And make sure that no one's behind you. And then you look super cool. Welcome to my library. I spend a lot of time reading historical fighting manuals from the 1400s to the 1600s, and this is what I credit with how I became a really good spear fighter, because understanding what they talked about from hundreds of years ago has really enhanced my understanding of spear fighting. Here's an example of one of the books that I read. This is Polearms of Paulus Hector Mayer, And it's really an exceptional spearfighting manual. We've got excellent pictures up here, and then he describes plays with text in the bottom. My favorite historical masters to read are Joseph Swetnam, Achille Morozo, Paulus Hector Mayer, and Joachim Meyer, in that order. I hope these ideas help you keep sharp during the isolation, and good luck. If you want to learn more, you can look up my Facebook page, Speaking of Spears.